Greetings and welcome to the newest episode of the Rice Crypto Show. I'm your host, Rice, and today I am joined for the fourth time by Reggie Middleton. In fact, I will include a link down below in the video description and above for the playlist that I created with all of his previous appearances. Today, we're going to be discussing Reggie's numerous patents. We're also going to be getting updates on the lawsuits against Coinbase and Circle, his thoughts on Blackrock tokenizing their shares, and much, much more. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on today's episode of the Rice Crypto Show is a returning guest joining me for interview number 4. Fourth time I'm joined by the financial Nostradamus, Mr. Reggie Middleton. Welcome back to the show, Reggie. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Peace, everybody. I didn't know it was 4.
Yeah, no, it was technically the third time on my channel because the very, very first interview that I did with you, I was working as a contributor for World Alternative Media, which had a lot bigger of a channel to give a better audience for what you guys were doing. Because that's when I first interviewed you, a lot of the things we were talking about was the Veritaseum SEC case. So I'm going to have a link down below in the video description for the playlist with all of your previous appearances, and also have links down below for everything that we're going to be talking about on today's show. I encourage you to check out Reggie's YouTube channel. I'm going to have links down below for this, and you can also follow Reggie over on Twitter, the Disruptor in Chief. Founded DeFi in 2013. The DeFi patents, I've got both the patents pulled up for the United States and the patent pulled up for Japan. We cover this in previous episodes. So we're not going to rehash a lot. The last time he came on,
There's actually 3 patents.
Oh, there's 3 now.
Reissue patent, yes.
Okay. There's 3 countries, you mean, that have approved it?
No, it's 1 in the U.S., 2 in Japan.
2 in Japan. What's the second one in Japan?
Similar subject matter, different depth, breadth.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Well, I know I wouldn't be shocked if 2 or 3 more pop up before the end of the year. It wouldn't surprise me.
Okay. I will get into that too, because I also seen some patents that were filed by Coinbase. Publication date October 26, 2023, which would have just been recently. I don't even know if you've seen these yet. But we'll get into all of this stuff, man. The last time we talked, you were at the point where you were getting ready, and I shouldn't say you, but Veritaseum Capital was suing Coinbase over patent infringement. Did I have that correct?
You do. Yes.
Okay. And a lot of things have happened. Shout out to the Crypto Canvas YouTube channel. I got this from them. I don't know where they got it from, but it looks like Crypto MM Telegram. But there's a quick timeline here going from 9/22/2022, where you filed, Reggie filed the complaint against the patent infringement against Coinbase. On November 14th, we've seen Coinbase file a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim. On February 16, 2023, Coinbase motion denied and Reggie/Coinbase moved to discovery phase. On March 6, 2023, Reggie files motion to stay because of the untimely passing of his lead counsel. Sorry to hear about that, by the way. March 31st, 2023, we see the Coinbase files petition for inter-parties review of 566 with the USPTO. That's the patent office. 7/17/2023, Reggie responds to the Coinbase petition. October 11th, 23, the USPTO denies Coinbase's petition. If I go back to the screen share, I'll pull up one of Reggie's tweets that he sent me. Veritaseum Capital sues alleged major revenue drivers. Proof of stake wallets USDC of the largest US blockchain company or copyright infringement, a patent that's now been twice affirmed by the USPTO without a peep from the media. How would you research the risk? Not through the media. Influencers reach out to me. I say content creators as well. Reach out to Reggie. Why do you think no one is really talking about this. I mean, I've seen some mention of the fact that there is a lawsuit. I mean, I have something from Reuters from September of last year, September 23rd of last year, talking about Coinbase being sued for patent infringement. So that part did at least get brought up. But the fact that the USPTO has now affirmed twice what Coinbase was trying to get them to not affirm, it changes the situation a great deal. One, why do you think nobody is covering this, Reggie?
The benevolent reason would probably be they don't understand it. I don't think they may not understand it, but I think the greater reason is those entities who cover it, at least the industry-specific entities, are concentrated in ownership. And the companies that own them or organizations that own them are the organizations that fall the heaviest under the patent. It's not like they're afraid to cover me. You let some negative news come out, like the SEC filed suit. It's all over the place. There's no delay. I get hacked, or not even hacked. My telephone carrier gets hacked and I get SIM swapped. They cover that. But something like this, they don't cover. And interestingly enough, this is the big story.
It's very big.
I allege that this patent covers the vast majority of crypto or blockchain transactions on a decentralized basis, or even on a centralized basis. I'm talking the vast majority, considerably over 50%, way over 50%. That's a big allegation, a big assertion. A big assertion. I wouldn't make that if I was confident. And a lot of people, a lot of entities have said, well, entities such as Coinbase, Circle, their legal counsel, some of the biggest in the country, in the world. Coinbase used the largest pure litigator for defense, and they used the law firm with the largest patent bench in the country, Perkins Coie, 499 patent attorneys. 499, rounded to 500, one out. 500 patent attorneys, not professionals, attorneys. So they're paying good money and they're taking it seriously, and they all allege that the patent was invalid. Well, the guys whose opinion counts disagree. Okay. So a patent that the inventor alleges covers the majority of the space as foundational technology was granted. It was challenged by the largest company in the space in the US, who hired the largest patent law firm in this country to go after it and invalidate it. And they didn't even get a trial. The way inter partes reviews work is someone files a petition, a request for the court to grant a trial to invalidate the patent, and they put the proof and the reasoning and the prior art, and they hire professionals, PhD consultants, etc., to make the argument. The PTAB, which is a Patent Trial and Appeal Board, didn't even feel that their request warranted a trial. So they didn't say you're going to trial and you lost. They're saying you didn't even put enough evidence to support a trial, which is saying an awful lot to the implied validity of the patent. Okay, at least according to how it was approached by Coinbase and their very, very large counsel. This is the quintessential David versus Goliath story. And let me just, while we're speaking, let's put to the side this tripe and diatribe about patent trolls. An inventor can never be a patent troll. Okay? So there's this verbiage in the art nomenclature that says that goes as reduced to practice. So if you invent something and you reduce it to practice, you put it to use. The inventor is always the first one to reduce it to practice, because the invention itself, proving it works, reduces it to practice. If you use it, you can't be a troll. Okay, so there are powerful entities who want to step on entrepreneurs and inventors who don't have access to billions of dollars of venture capital because they're not part of the club. I think a lot of them look and act like me. And they are labeled as trolls, when in reality, they are the lifeblood that made America great. The entrepreneurs, the inventors, the risk takers, the capitalists, the hard workers. with the creative ideas and the ingenuity. And they are being suppressed by those who have access to billions of dollars of capital, political hookups, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I have my own term, patent pirates. And a pirate is somebody who steals something that doesn't belong to them. Think of Pirates of the Caribbean, right? But
yeah.
those pirates are not cute and quippy and charismatic like that dude from Pirates of the Caribbean. They are, right, bloodthirsty thieves. They will slit your throat and take your gold. Okay? Patent pirates are entities who steal ideas and don't pay for them. I guess stealing means you don't pay for it. And I don't want to point fingers and call names because I don't want to get in a name calling contest like those who use patent trolls. But there's no reason in the world why an individual inventor or creator or entrepreneur should not be able to monetize his idea, just like someone who has access to the big multi-billion-dollar VC firms and then take their idea and bring it public on the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. Right? There's no reason in the world why, the entrepreneur, right, who's not part of the club can't succeed like that entity or those people who are part of the club. So what patents do, in my opinion, is they level the playing field. And even though you may not be part of the club, you own the deed to the clubhouse. Take that to the bank.
No, that's a good way of putting it.
Okay. So not trying to make enemies of everybody, but kill that pirate, the patent troll things. You have to know what you're talking about before you do that.
When I've heard the patent troll term being used, I've heard it more of just getting a patent just to prevent other people from using the technology, not to market it without using the technology. Because I mean, you filed for this. If I pull up the screen share again, this is actually from the patent website. You filed the priority claim May 9th, 2014. And I've seen you on Kaiser Report, different TradFi financial shows, talking about the idea of peer-to-peer capital markets.
2013, actually.
Well,
You've seen it
I
before.
was thinking 2012, but maybe 2013 is maybe more correct. But I've known you've been talking about this longer than I've been involved in crypto. So it's not as if you're just staking a claim on something that you really didn't have any idea or anything to do with. I mean, like the patent is very, very, very detailed, so people can check these out in its entirety. One of the things I wanted to ask you in regards to the case with Coinbase, and I saw this on a Kramer11.com website, and they were saying that, where is it at? And an interesting turn from this case is that in another case indicated that Veritaseum might not have the standing to sue because the inventor had improperly assigned the patent to himself, an issue that is currently subject to discovery. And the case is presently stayed to allow the plaintiff time to hire a new counsel after the passing of his attorney. So I'm assuming you've got a new attorney. What is this about the not having standing because of improper assignment of the patent? Have you heard this?
Well, of course I've heard it because it's one of the many, many fights I've been having. I can't speak on active litigation, but let's put it this way. I don't agree with that. You can look at the patent applications. You can see whose name are on them. Okay. And it's self-explanatory. But other than that, I'm not going to comment on active litigation. But
Okay.
the company the company being referred to is a company that is vastly majority owned by me. Okay.
I've got you. But
yeah.
but when it says current assignee, that would be like you as the inventor and you and Matthew as the inventors are allowing for the assignee, being Veritaseum Incorporated, to control the patent. Is that the way that would work?
Well, no, I don't want to get into the mechanics of it, but
okay.
And the inventors are assumed to be the owners of the patent and the applicants, and they have to, in order for someone else to have it, they have to assign it to somebody else. Okay. I never did that.
I got you. So where are we at currently with the situation now that the USPTO has now twice told Coinbase that they don't have any valid case here with this particular where they were trying to question the patent. Where are we standing now? Like I said, I'm assuming you've got a new attorney and we're going to start proceeding forward. Is that where we're at?
Well, again, I don't want to speak on active litigation. There's no upside. I could say something that's completely true, right, and completely valid, and it still could be used against me. So so that's the downside. And the upside to speaking on active litigation is none. So I can't speak on active litigation. There is no active litigation against Coinbase or anybody else now in terms of patent infringement. I cannot guarantee that won't be the case going forward. I believe that I'm in a very strong position. I have a very strong patent that was inadvertently, at least implied to have been strengthened by Coinbase's attempt to break it and failure to do so. The patent office has not affirmed or reaffirmed the patent, but they have denied an attempt to say that the patent was invalid. So take that as you will. And it didn't come from, a first-year law student in the basement. It came from the challenge came from the biggest company in the entire industry in the U.S., who hired the largest, most powerful IP law firm in the U.S. So you can take that as you will.
Well,
I had a knife fight and somebody handed me a gun.
No, yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. I'm reading between the lines here. I totally am. And again, I really think that the industry should be covering this. And, obviously I feel like not covering this, not bringing any attention to it is wrong. But we know that, or at least I know that a lot of the media within the crypto space is owned by several few, and they have an interest in entities like Coinbase, who don't obviously want to lose this case. Can you say, do you have any open litigation cases at all?
Not the patent. I had withdrew them because, my patent attorney was also someone who I respected a lot, on a friendship level. He had passed away. So patent litigation is not inexpensive. Okay. But we shall see what happens in the future. I'd love to discuss licensing with anybody who would like to license it. Okay. I am not a troll. I'm also a very, very practical and prudent businessman. So, discussion is how you do it. Negotiation, I think, is how it should be done. Look at it from a practical perspective. You have, and let's not use names, so I'm not referring to Coinbase or anybody else. You have large crypto company A, right? They have a multi-billion-dollar business, right? It is alleged, and they find out it may be true, that their business, the vast majority, if not the entire business, infringes on a patent of a guy who's an outsider, okay? And the executive who's maturing says, we should talk to this guy. He might have something worthwhile to say. And, we have, let's say, $1 billion worth of infringement, $500 million worth of infringement. And maybe he might discuss licensing it. And then his lawyer comes up and says, but wait a minute, how much would licensing be? Oh, $1 billion, who knows? Maybe it could be 50 million, 100 million, $300 million a year, 200 million, whatever the number may be. And the lawyer says, take the lowest number at $50 million a year. At $50 million, you pay me $5 million. I'll shake the tree and see if I get it to go away. That's 10%. And he talks the executive into doing it. The problem with that is, what's the lawyer supposed to say? Lawyers get paid, particularly litigators. They get paid one way, through fighting, right? You're not going to get a litigator, especially when you're talking about millions of dollars, to say, don't fight, settle right now.
Right.
Okay, it's not going to happen, right? So that's like the fox in the hen house talking about, I'm vegetarian, don't worry about it. You're good. Close the door and leave, right? So what the executive should realize is that they need to look at what the best risk-adjusted outcome is, for the business. Where the litigator is simply looking at the largest billable hour count he can get. Period. Right? Particularly on the plaintiff side, on the defense side. There's no contingency, just the largest billable hour. If I were to change the industry, right, I'd say that the defense lawyers get paid upon the best contingent output of the situation, outcome of the situation. So if you save me money and save me fighting in litigation, I'll cut you X amount. If you drag me into litigation, right, then I'll stop your pay in another section. You have to use them in terms of actual billable hours in defense, but realize that he's costing you actual dollars, distracting management time and attention, and risk. They can lose, and now they have to pay, right, the full license fee, potentially triple damages, which can add up. If you think $10 million is a lot, multiply that by 3 and then do that per year. So I think the entire arrangement is incentivizing unnecessary fighting in combat. But then again, what do I know, right? I'm the David versus the Goliath who has access to all the biggest brains and the largest pools of capital in the world. What would I know?
Well,
But David won that fight in the Bible.
I
Just
would
to put
think,
it into
though,
perspective,
if you had success in court on a public record, that it would set a precedent, following. Whereas
Right.
if you were to make licensing agreements with people, it may not be, there may be NDAs involved with that, where people don't even know that there's licensing being paid.
Right.
So
They can guess. If I have litigation and that litigation wasn't knocked out of court and I stopped, anybody with 2 synapses to rub together realizes what happened. NDA or not. If you lose in court, if you go to jury and you lose, right, you now pay maximum price and all penalties. And I can take that win and now shop it around. I don't want to. Fighting is not a business model for me. I'm not a litigant. I fight because nobody's listening and respecting, right? Which is the entire purpose of a patent. Patents were designed to enable inventors and entrepreneurs to do business at a level that the large ultra capitalized, super capitalized companies can act on.
Well,
It's an equalizer.
in your second interview with me, the first one on the channel, is where we got into a little bit of a discussion about the idea of open source and how some cypherpunks look at things. So for people that are coming and watching this for the first time, who didn't watch those previous conversations, we get into that in detail. So if you're one of these open source people, definitely go back and check out the playlist, the second interview that I did with Reggie, because we cover that in great detail. Because ultimately, the way that this is going to work is patents exist, regardless of if you have an open source mentality or not. And if someone in our space, in our community, doesn't get the patents for these technologies, ultimately the banks can't and other institutions can. I've
Will,
seen,
not can, will.
well,
One word.
Bank of America. How many? Do you know how many patents they've applied for, and how many? Because I don't know the answer. I'm asking you.
I'm pretty sure it's over 100. The
Do you know
last
how
time I
many they
checked
got
was like
accepted?
2015. I don't know, but they've been working on it.
Okay, and they're not the
Coinbase
only
hired a
bank.
prolific patent person as well. In terms of open source, just a quick synopsis of what I think I discussed in the last video. You cannot have open source code without IP ownership. So anybody says, "Oh, I'm against IP ownership and I'm against patents," well, then you're against open source, because in order to have an open source license and enforce it, you have to own the IP and be able to control it. And you can't control the IP if you don't own it. So open source, depending on the open source license, but give you an example of one popular license model, is to say this is to be freely available on the internet for everybody can look at it and download it at will. But if you make any adjustments to it or changes, you have to add it back to the community. The only way to enforce that is to have ownership of it, and anybody who doesn't listen then gets dragged into court, potentially. You can't do that if you don't own the IP. So anybody who's pro open source is pro IP ownership, period. And if you didn't realize that, then you really shouldn't be commenting on it, because you don't really understand what you're talking about. And I'm not trying to knock anybody, but there's facts and there's fiction, and then there's the stuff you hear on the internet.
Good way of putting it. And what I do also want to mention to people is that there was a second lawsuit that was against Circle. And currently that right now is stayed as well because of the council situation. Circle was trying to was filing for a dismissal on lack of personal jurisdiction because Veritaseum did not name Circle's U.S. entity, and 2, lack of standing because of the same issue related to the patent being improperly assigned. So that's the updates on that. Something I did want to ask you your opinion on it, and this came out October the 11th. JP Morgan is debuting tokenized Blackrock shares as collateral with Barclays. This sounds like what you were trying to do with Veritaseum, with the peer-to-peer capital markets and tokenizing stocks and getting rid of the third-party intermediaries.
Sounds exactly what I was trying to do. Sounds like it might be very similar to what was patented.
Yeah, it does. That's why I'm bringing it up. I know that we currently don't have any litigation going on, but in this particular instance, if there was to be litigation, would it be taken against both entities, JP Morgan and BlackRock, or one or the other suits?
Well, I'm not a litigious person, so what that would be is a phone call and a couple of dinners to discuss things. And the only reason you have litigation is if the other side doesn't want to have, a fruitful discussion, and if they're infringing and stealing. So, litigation is never the first, second, probably not even the third recourse. But, if you got to have it, you got to have it.
So are you implying that you've reached out and maybe spoken to people at Coinbase and Circle prior to litigation?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And they just didn't want to play balls the way it appears, in my opinion, if you had to go to litigation.
I don't want to comment. I don't want to,
I just added my opinion. I know. I just wanted to add my 2 Satoshis there. Shout out to CB.
But you could figure it out. If I ended up suing them and I tried to talk, you can probably guess how well the conversations went. But
I understand. Okay, so I'm going to have to pay attention to what's happening because I'm reading between the lines. I think this is a very important subject that needs to be covered. I know that patents are becoming a topic. COPA and the Craig Wright lawsuit is going to bring a lot more attention to those kind of things. COPA is the Open Patent Alliance, which
what's your opinion on COPA? I'm going to ask you. I'm going to play interviewer.
I was about to ask you what your thoughts were. I haven't really researched enough to look into this, and I don't know if it's similar to, because I think Tesla was doing something with some sort of patenting, like open patents, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not a patent person. So yeah,
Tesla had an
open sources their patents.
Yeah, they had like an open patent pool where they open source their patents and say you can use our patents if you allow us to use your patents and you don't sue us. Okay? And Elon Musk was saying, oh, this is cool and we can do this and we're leading the industry. But, there are tricks. There's this fine print. Number one, Tesla is so far ahead of the game, they can now afford to do that because nobody's going to catch up to Tesla. Okay? Even if you do have access to the patents. Number two, the fine print. Tesla just sued a company over patent infringement. And yes, they said they have an open source patent machine, but they say you cannot sue us for patent infringement. So what Tesla is saying is if you allege that we are taking your stuff, then we will sue you. And yet that you're using ours. It's a quid pro quo, but it's also not a non-litigation stance. It's a non-litigation if you do things the way we want stance. It's a difference, a nuanced difference, but a very important difference. Now, if Tesla was a startup, right, with no access to capital and couldn't afford to take on Benz, or GM or Ford, trust me, they wouldn't say, hey, take our patents and use them, right? Musk does that when Tesla is far enough ahead where it won't damage him. And even then, he will sue a competitor, right? I'm not saying he's wrong for suing a competitor, but he's still suing it. As for COPA is more the same. It's even worse, in my opinion. COPA is a joke. Their stated goal is to defend those who can't defend themselves in terms of intellectual property and patent infringement, right? Purely defensive. So as soon as they got together, got everything together, what was Copa's first action, or one of their first actions? Do you know?
I'm thinking it had something to do with suing Craig Wright.
That's right. How is suing somebody defensive? It doesn't matter whether
Well,
you like
it
Craig
had
Knight or
yeah, it
not.
had to do with the claim of Craig calling himself Satoshi, telling people to remove the Bitcoin white paper, a couple other things. I have mixed opinions about the people that are involved with Copa.
Yeah. See, when you sue somebody, that's offensive. And look, it's your right to sue, don't get me wrong, but don't go around saying, we're defensive only. If you're defensive only, then you don't sue anybody, you just defend against lawsuits. Okay. And COPA is made up of entities who are primarily large and primarily likely to infringe on small inventors' properties. Like Craig Wright or dislike him, like whoever he partners with, I think it's Craig Ayer from Australia, etc. They have a lot of patent applications pending, and they have a lot of issue patents. A lot.
Yeah,
Okay. And it should
more
be
than
obvious.
I think more than Bank of America actually.
Yeah. And if you look at my patent, go to Google Patents, type in my patent. You type in Reggie Middleton or 111-96566 B2, and you'll see that Enchain has cited my patents more than any other company. A lot, like 20, 30, 25, 30 times.
Yeah,
Right? That's a lot of citations. The reason why they cited it so much is because they have that many patent applications out that cover foundational or touch this foundational technology. Bank of America is there many times. Um, Several banks, TD Bank, Citibanks, there multiple times, etc. So these entities, okay, are not defensive. Coinbase is in there. Etc. If you go, you could find, if you scroll down
members.
on the page you're just on and go to sites, you'll see the companies listed in a row where, which company cited what.
Can you see this?
Yes, I can.
Is this what you're talking about? The members, the
No.
platinum members, general members? No.
Well,
Okay.
no, I'll talk about the actual patent. Go back to the previous page, Google Patents.
Oh, the Google patents. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm back on this one.
Okay. Yeah. Now scroll down a little bit. Okay, right there. See the hyperlink? No, up.
Up
And you guys, that first line of hyperlinks, it should be cited by. You'll see cited by.
legal
You
events,
click that.
similar documents. Click on this. Okay.
No, did you click the cited by link? Just
I thought
scroll down. Just scroll down. You can do it by hand.
this is the bottom of it.
Oh, okay, scroll up then. Okay, you see those companies?
Yes,
Those are the companies that cited the patent. There's 113 of them. Okay,
they've cited your patent.
right. Which
Okay,
means that they had to say that my patent is prior art or prior art to their patent.
superior.
113 different companies. And look at it. It's a who's who. Allstate, NASDAQ,
Wells
Citibank, Bank of
Fargo,
America, Wells
Ripple,
Fargo, TD Bank.
Luxembourg, Nasdaq, Mastercard, International Business Machine. I didn't see this before. Dell Products. Yeah, this is pretty impressive. The
Keep
Royal
going.
Bank of Canada, In-Chain Holdings. In-Chain. That is Craig Wright, the company that he is the chief computer scientist. I'm not sure what his official title is, or if even he's still involved. I think their CEO stepped down. I don't know if you heard about that one.
I heard, but I don't follow. I have sort of my own things to worry about. So
That was just something about Craig not being Satoshi.
I don't care.
Craig wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, the National ICT Australia Limited, Civic Technologies, Digital Asset Holdings. So by listing your patent, they have to recognize that your patent is, for one, exists and is superior, correct?
Not superior, it's prior art too. So by signing the patent, either they acknowledge voluntarily or the patent office forced them to acknowledge, put my patent down as prior art, saying that my patent, has their patent is only, I'm paraphrasing, not in legal terms, that their patent is based in part on the technology that I disclosed when I filed.
Yes, I see that on the last side. It kind of mentions because Sony Interactive Entertainment. It says for tracking unique video game digital media assets using tokens on a distributed ledger. So that would
That is
be
brand new. That one is brand new. And you know what that is? That's Web3 within gaming. So basically, you buy your gaming and you win, 100,000 gaming tokens in Gran Turismo or Grand Theft Auto, right?
I also noticed Coinbase Incorporated on here a few times.
Of course. I mean, so who's who? And that's not a complete list. That's just what people voluntarily disclose or what the patent office forced them to disclose.
Let me see this stuff because this is just a website that has these patents. 20230344641.
Now, if you click those links, just click the link in that list, and it brings you to the patent. So if you want to see the Sony patent, just click on the left link. I think those are patent numbers. Just click that, and it'll open the Sony patent for you.
Okay. Now I want to see the Coinbase one.
Or the Coinbase, yeah.
Yeah, systems and methods for blockchain transaction management. Because it's interesting that these guys are trying to be part of COPA, but yet they file for their own patents.
They actually use their own patent, Brian Armstrong's patent that he filed for in 2000, a month before I filed mine, actually. Very close, a month or two, as prior art to my patent in the IPR attack, IPR petition. And they combined it with, other guys from, the industry from early on. And at the end of the day, they missed.
Now, did you cite patents in yours?
Yes. I cited much more non-patented prior art. So I cited the Bitcoin white paper. I think I might have cited Ethereum or Ethereum's white paper, and other things. If you take a look at it, you can see the list is in my patent application too.
What part of the page is that on?
If you go back up, you can see, go back up to the link right there. Scroll down till you see the first link on the right. Okay. So you'll see.
Citations. Make sure this is it. Oh, it just pulls up the same thing. Patent citation.
Oh, you know what? You have to refresh the page. You know how.
Here it is. Patent citations. So these are the 22 patent citations that you listed.
Well, actually, looks like the patent office, I initially put 7 in. I think the patent office probably added more in.
Okay.
But even if you take as many, 113 cited me, 22 between me and the patent office. That is more than a 5-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, no, 114 cited you, and you cited 22.
Yeah, I think I cited 7, but the patent office probably put the others in.
Well, interesting, man. I'm definitely going to keep following this situation as it keeps going, and remind you that if you are successful, that me and Crypto Blood could definitely use some funding for both of our channels. You could be our sole sponsor. just saying.
I need some funding right now.
I feel you, my friend. I want to ask you one last two questions. One, are you free to talk about anything that is going on with the VeriDAO, and are you involved with the VeriDAO?
I prefer not to speak on the VeriDAO. I let them speak themselves. The VeriDAO is a separate entity from me and Veritaseum, etc. Okay. So I'll let the VeriDAO speak.
Well, if any of those folk want to reach out to me and come on a program, you're definitely more than welcome. Hit me up. The last question I want to ask you before I give you a chance with final thoughts, as the financial Nostradamus, because you used to call the booms and busts. What do you think about the current economic climate? Everything with the Fed, interest rates, what's currently happening with the Treasury bond market, like basically the foundation of the debt market breaking. Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, the possibility of conflicts with China and all the other stuff going on. Where is your Nostradamus thought process thinking about the current climate, where we're at now?
Well, realistically, you asked like 13 questions.
Well, I was adding in all the different things that are kind of putting us in a very precarious position as far as the fragility of our economic system. So
I believe we have effective stagflation, but it's not showing up in the numbers because the numbers are purposely glossed over. Not gloss with a GR or SED. For instance, when you have things like very recently, job openings increase, and they always say unexpectedly. Everything can't be unexpected. You have to expect something, right? But those job openings, first you have to take a look at what those job openings are. Okay, so restaurant table waiters and busboys, with all due respect to them, are not the same job openings as computer engineers. Okay, two very, very different things. When you have low wage, high turnover jobs openings increasing, and you have stickier, more permanent job openings that are not increasing or decreasing, you can have more job openings, but the value per job drops significantly in terms of its ability to stick, right? And in terms of the actual economic throughput, not just salary, but what is contributed to the economy as a whole. And until you start getting serious about counting those numbers and making them granular and accurate, then it's just a big mirrors game, smoke and mirrors game, which I think is done on purpose. Same thing with inflation. And you know the inflation argument. Inflation is stabilized as long as you don't need to heat your house or have a house to live in or purchase clothes. You're good. You can't also drive or use a car or, buy gas. Then inflation is stable. Basically, as long as that person's alive, his vitals are good, right? But unfortunately, that's not a very good way of looking at the economy. So if you look at things granularly, we still have the piper to pay for commercial real estate, which in almost every metro area has taken a bashing. Retail, office, residential. Okay. You have a lot of residential building in a lot of areas because they say there's a housing shortage. That's nonsense, right? There's not a housing shortage. If there was, then all these residential building or the residential supply would solve it. What you have is an affordable housing shortage. So when you put more houses on the market and they're all at the luxury level, it doesn't solve the affordable housing thing. It adds more supply in an area where most people are not going to buy, right? That housing was built using debt. Something's going to crack. Okay, look at how many economic recoveries you've had that didn't include commercial and residential real estate and office. Okay, you have a structural change from shopping in malls to internet shopping. My daughter, who is 17, almost never goes to malls. When I was 17, we lived in the malls. It was a social event, and we also shopped there. Okay, now if you have 10% less people going to malls, you have a problem paying the mortgages. We're talking like a 30, 40, 50% drop, if not more. The entire younger generation is anti-mall. They're pro Amazon, etc. Not just Amazon, but
online shopping in general, yeah.
And there's more and more and more to go. So that's why that Sony patent that basically allows you to track items, through a blockchain from within a game, that's Web3. Okay, that's taking your units or whatever you stole in Grand Theft Auto and allows you to resell it in Gran Turismo, etc. It's also, in my opinion, covered under things that I've patented. So the world is changing. The metrics that are used to measure the change in the world, outdated and purposely obfuscated. So someone could turn around and say, hey, things are hunky-dory. Things are hunky-dory for those hunky-dory guys who live in Beverly Hills, Upper East Side, Palm Springs. But your typical Rust Belt, working class, middle class American, not so much so. But what do I know, right? I'm just David.
I'm really curious what you're thinking as far as like a prediction with like a recession. I mean, like a lot of people in the government are saying no recession, but it looks like all signs are pointing to we're going to have a recession. The Fed's talking about trying to have a soft landing from all this inflation. They just continue to pause. They haven't raised interest rates. It seems like raising interest rates is going to make the situation it's already bad that much worse. It seems like we're almost at the end of this fiat cycle for the US dollar. I really like your thoughts on the future of the dollar, I guess, and like where we're headed in that aspect.
Well, the dollar is safe from a U.S. perspective because, in order for a significant change to come, like a global reserve currency to move from one currency to another, you need two things at a minimum. You need for that currency to crack. You need for there to be a currency to absorb the liquidity.
The fallout, yeah.
Right. We have none of them. What would replace a dollar? What do you
Bitcoin's
think
not
comes
scaled enough to do it, and the BRICS, I don't think they're ready in that fashion.
Not even close. The next closest runner-up would probably be the euro. The euro is duct taped together. So,
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Everything looks like it is. That's why I'm wondering if, like, I've spoken to people recently just who basically have said that war is going to cause more spending. It's going to break the entire financial system. They're going to blame it on war, and that will allow for them to introduce their central bank digital currencies, which is a new system. It's the end of this fiat-based system and going into this digital surveillance
fiat
system.
system, man. The fiat-based system is going nowhere. And they don't have to ask anybody. They don't need an excuse to introduce central bank digital currencies. Again, if you remember, what denotes what makes a global reserve currency?
The fact that everybody's using it.
The country with the largest, most powerful military and geopolitical presence. Basically, the guy who can blow you up.
Right.
Okay?
Well, the Bretton Woods Agreement, after the end of World War II, the United States is so strong that, they made the agreement that everything would be traded against the dollar instead of using gold because the dollar was backed by gold and it was as good as gold.
And everybody else burned themselves down in war. Right? Europe literally burned itself apart. So, and you need to be able to overcome the US's geopolitical power and their military power and their economic might. And on top of that, you need something for it to land in. It's not going to happen. The euro, second runner up, is a combination of at least 17, if not 27 different languages, cultures, economic systems, and legal systems, all scotch taped together to try and emulate the United States of America, 50 states and 3 or 4 territories. But they tried to do it not in 600 years, not in 500 years, not in 250 years with 200 years of free slave labor from Africans, Native Americans, and Chinese, but in 50 or 60 years without the Civil War, which decimated 10% of the male population in the U.S., right? And without benefiting from World War I and World War II, where the U.S. sold munitions, right, financed everything and got interest payments off of, and took everybody's gold as collateral. So Europe wants to bypass all that, do it in 60 years. No, it's not going to happen, and it didn't happen. Okay, so if the U.S. collapses, you still need something to put it in. The U.S. doesn't collapse until all their guns are expended. Now, war is not fought the way it used to be, where I walk in and go pow, pow, pow. War is fought now, civil unrest and political destabilization through social media.
Fifth generation
right,
warfare.
Right, through social media, through Stuxnet style viruses, which are now 4 generations deep. Things are just different. Even when you go pow, 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 you have drones doing a lot of that. So things are different. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, man. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts on where we're at. It sounds like what you said, and you're just thinking like with the political climate, it seems like there's so many cracks in the system, and as far as the United States is concerned, with the economic side, the political side, and the social side, that it's a cause for disaster. I'm questioning whether or not there's even going to be an election. And if there's not, or depending if they don't allow certain people to be involved in the election, how much more division that could cause and maybe actual real unrest, like real true unrest. And that's where it's like with the combination of all those things, we're basically, I've said it before, that we're up a shit's creek without a paddle.
Yeah.
Basically, and the Federal Reserve is kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't, because it seems like the market's going to crash, whether it crashes up or it crashes down.
Yeah. The way I look at things is, Americans, I guess because America's such a big country, you can't get away with it compared to continental Europe, which is a whole bunch of countries and still smaller than America. But you got to take a step out and look at the world, not just America. So whether America is dethroned has nothing to do with how bad America does. What it has to do is how bad the rest of the world does, right? America could be on top and just fall apart. It just has to fall apart less than everybody else fell apart. So are you tall or are you short?
I like to consider myself average.
But you can't even tell if you're average or not, because it all depends on how short everybody else in the room is next to you.
Right.
A 5-foot man could be the tallest man in the room with a bunch of 4-foot compatriots.
True.
And a 6'5" man could be, a dwarf if he's around 7-foot people. So it's all relative.
5'9", so I think
you don't have to give it time.
I think I'm about average. I know you're tall. You're a tall guy.
People say I'm tall. I was 6'2". I shrank an inch. That's sad, getting old. But I'm the second shortest out of all my cousins.
It happens when we get old, Reggie. We shrink. Yeah. we start to shrink.
It's true. I was traumatized. Told the nurse to measure me over twice. She was like, "Why?"
Speaking of that, just ironically, today I saw a picture of somebody that I know that was sharing them wearing a Halloween costume, since we just experienced Halloween, and it was a costume that they wore 10 years ago. And they took a side-by-side picture, and apparently this individual, it's a lady, she wasn't able to wear it until this time period. She's been doing some things to work on herself. And someone asked, why does the skirt look longer in the other picture? And someone's comment is because she got shorter as she got older.
And that
I thought that was hilarious. Yeah. But it is part of life. It is part of life. Well, Reggie, again, you always have an open invitation, man. Keep me updated on the private side about what's going on, and I'll just keep myself as much attuned to what's happening. Before we wrap things up, again, I want to encourage people to make sure that they check out the playlist with your previous appearances. They also subscribe and check out your YouTube channel, which will be linked down below, as well as follow you on the Twitters or X, whatever you guys want to call it. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to add before we wrap up today, Reggie?
Remember, when you research, look for primary sources. I've been looking at the character attacks that I've been subject to, and all you have to do is go straight to the primary sources. If it's something legal, look at the actual documents from the judge, read it, see if it makes sense. Don't look at the plaintiff's papers only, because they are obviously biased. Look at the defendant's papers. If you're some financial, go through the fine print. Go through the fine print first. That's where the dirt is. I take annual reports and I just turn them upside down and look at it from the back. Anything under 11 or 10 point font, I look at. 10, 11 pages in, you have probably all the dirt you need if there's dirt there. Oh, yeah, there's always dirt there because people don't read. In a swipe left, swipe right society, independent thought, going past the first page of Google results, please, why should you? So you want to hide something?
Go to the top 3 results.
Yeah.
I mean, now they
when
got
you want
this
to hide
term.
Something, you put it in deep.
Yeah. Well, there's a term TLDR, which too long, didn't read. That's people's mentality these days. A lot of people just reading. They're just reading headlines. They're not even actually going beyond the headline, unfortunately. So.
And once ChatGPT becomes more abrupt or more widely used, they're not going to even read the headlines. They're going to let ChatGPT do the reading for them.
Well, Reggie, again, thank you for your time. Bear with me 1 second while I do the wrap up. Again, I'm going to have links down below for everything that we talked about, everything I shared on today's show. If you're not subscribed, I definitely encourage you to make sure you are subscribed to here, Rice Crypto, as well as my other YouTube channel, Rice Against the Grain. You can find all the links for those channels and my socials at ricetvx.com. And before we wrap things up, I want to leave you with this. I encourage you, as always, be a blessing to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. Be the glitch that you want to see in this matrix. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Until next time, practice change.